Sony has made some beautiful electronic devices in their day, and the EV-S7000 is certainly one of them. We are going to unbox this beauty, look at its fancy buttons and key features, do some picture quality tests, and see how well it can make a copy from another Hi8 tape. We'll check out its slow motion and still frame. I'm also going to show you how this deck works with an external editor that's specifically designed to work with the features of this VCR. And finally, I'll give you some buying tips for getting this baby online. By the end of this video, you'll be drooling to get one. I bought the EV-S7000 on eBay from a seller I had not bought from before, but he seemed to be reputable, and it came in the original box and accessories, as you can see, the instruction manual, the remote control, which has a nice jog on the remote, cable accessories, which no longer going to be needed, but the original styrofoam, and the deck itself, which is a beefy deck, not too heavy, but it has a lot of controls, ins and outs on the back, and takes up a lot of desk space. So this VCR is a Hi8 VCR, which means it'll record and play back in the 8mm and Hi8mm format. It does not do digital 8, which was a subsequent format which was partially compatible with Hi8 and 8, but this one does not do digital 8. There is no FireWire control on the back. The Video 8 format had 240 lines of horizontal resolution, but the newer Hi8 format bumped that up to 400. So if you were lucky enough to have bought this deck in the mid-90s, it would have set you back $2,000. So what does that translate into US dollars today? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's a whopping $3,700. So this deck could be very well suited as either a player of Hi8 tapes or a recorder. Let's first see how it does as a recorder. So I use an S-video out from a Hi8 camcorder into the EV-S7000. And here is the original footage that was actually captured via FireWire into my computer. And now we're about to jump to the copy made on the EV-S7000. You can immediately see that the color saturation has dropped off. And again, here's the original. You may also notice that there's a bit of an increase in noise on the copy from the EV-S7000. You know, we take for granted that today it's easy to make a perfect copy as we do it digitally, but back in the 90s there was some generational loss, as you can clearly see in this side-by-side example. Now let's test it as a player, and let's test this DNR control. DNR stands for Dynamic Noise Reduction, and in the Hi8 format and 8mm format, the color red always produced more noise. So I did the test on a red sofa. Here's Dynamic Noise Reduction off, and you can see the chrominance noise. And here it is in the standard mode and jacked up to the maximum mode. Again, compared to it being off, you definitely see an improvement with the DNR. Another option for controlling noise on this VCR is to go into the sharpness control. You have to dig into the menu to find that, but here you can adjust it either down or up if you want a sharper picture. It's unfortunate that there wasn't a hard button though, with all the knobs and switches on this VCR, that you have to use a menu. A hard button like this one here on the Sony SLHF-1000 would have been a nicer choice. This is a super beta deck. So right now, I think it would be a good idea to show you some actual Hi8 footage and how it plays on the EV-S7000 from a few trips I took back in the day in the 90s, so you could really see it in action and how it looked back then. Here was a trip to Greece in 1995. Beautiful country, except be careful, we took a cruise and everybody was throwing up off the side of the boat because the waters were quite turbulent. But Greece is a beautiful place. The next stop is going to be Hawaii, which was shot later that year with a Canon Hi8 camcorder. Matter of fact, it was the ES2000. Here's the Little Misses, and you can see the beautiful beaches of Hawaii. Yeah, that Canon ES2000 had a weird problem that developed after I got on the trip, and it just would randomly zoom on its own, and I didn't know what to do about it. It would just occasionally ruin shots.
It's really 352. No. Subtract 6 hours from all these times.
Wow, even my voice sounded different, didn't it? Kind of scary stuff. Camera work, not the greatest, but you get the idea. Oh boy, talk about scary stuff.
Wow, the water is all purple. Look at that, it's gorgeous. Fucking gorgeous. That's good.
Hi8 footage can be rather nice to watch if you have appealing material. I said appealing material, so boy, this camera work is really something else. But what happened there was the camera was fully zoomed. As I said, it zoomed on its own.
There it goes, but I actually want it to zoom now. It's zooming on its own.
So the deck does make a ticking sound when you shuttle it. I'm not sure if that's just my deck or they all did it, but when you put it in play, it's quiet. So one of the features of the deck is the Jog Shuttle wheel, which allows you to put your video into slow motion. Let's take a look and see how that looks. You see the pulsating up on top, but it's not tearing the video too badly. Again, for the 90s, this was considered good. You'll see that the still frame does a better job. It's much more solid. Among the many lights and indications on the deck, there is a Hi8 light on the front panel which glows up very nicely when the lights are down. So that Hi8 light got me thinking, does that Hi8 light mean that a Hi8 cassette is inserted into the machine? Or does it somehow know when Hi8 material is playing? So let's test that with the Hi8 tape in the VCR and me jumping like a moron in Hi8. The light is on. But here, now, the footage switches to regular 8 and the light goes off. So the VCR knows. If you're into audio, Sony has made some really nice improvements with this deck, allowing you to make audio dubs to a PCM high-quality audio track. Typically, when you audio dub in VHS or Super VHS, it's to a monolinear track, so this really ups the ante for audio dubbing. Other nice audio touches include a microphone in, headphone out, and a volume control for your headphone out. But although it has audio dubbing, it doesn't have video dubbing, so you can't do an effect like this where you insert a video over an existing video track. It has a TBC for your tapes that weren't recorded that great or may have some instability in the tapes. This helps reduce some of the jitter. What's famous about this deck is that it can edit in RC Timecode. That stands for Rewritable Consumer Timecode. That's a format that Sony introduced, and it wanted to allow consumers to get more accurate editing. And the very first camcorder to have this RC Timecode feature is this one. This is the Sony CCD V801. It really was a great camcorder for its time. Nice size, a lot of controls, flip up doors, professional features, and the RC Timecode. But don't even think about getting one of these now. These suffered from a horrific leaky cap problem. And unfortunately, even if you never even used it, even if you never even opened it out of the box, it won't work. And my video on how to buy vintage camcorders on eBay will explain what's going on with some models like this. That's why you have to be really careful if you want to buy a used camcorder or a vintage camcorder on eBay. Please check out that video. Sony made a few other camcorders that recorded in RC Timecode besides the 801. Here's a list of them, and I actually have one of them, the Sony TR700, and we're going to do a little test edit in a few minutes with an editing controller specifically designed for RC Timecode. What this deck can also do is if you have an 8mm tape that was not recorded with RC Timecode, for example, if you didn't have that camcorder, you can write the timecode to the tape with this deck. It allows you to do that, which is very cool. And then your tape will have the timecode embedded in it, and it'll make it more accurate when you do editing. A nice touch about this deck is when the tray is out, the time is on the display. When you push the tray in, the timecode appears. It took me a while to figure that out. So stay tuned. Coming up soon, we're going to talk about buying options for this deck on eBay and how you could potentially save some money with some tips. And I'm also now going to talk to you about this RM-E700 editing controller and how this works with the EV-S7000. This is an editing controller that actually has RC timecode capability, so you can use the EV-S7000 to edit very accurately, more accurately than you can ever before as a consumer. It comes with the wires, cards, and a demonstration tape. Let's take a look and see what's on that. At least a few seconds worth.
The Sony RM-E700 editor is not only provided with an edit function which sorts scenes and rearranges them in order desired, but also enables title superimposition on specified scenes. Now, anyone can produce their very own personal and original story with Sony's easy-to-use RM-E700 editing controller titler.
I'm sorry, but I just really love the cheesy graphics of these demo tapes. It's funny that this was considered high-end production value back in the 90s. Okay, if you want to stick around for this part of the video, I'm going to show you the setup and how I do a sample edit with this controller. The deck is connected via a Control S cable, which is a little different than the consumer-oriented LANC cable, which the camcorder is connected with because it doesn't have a Control S. Now we can control the player and the recorder. So the first thing we do is we go into program mode, and what lights up is cut in. So the editor is looking for us to find an first scene. We're only going to do one scene for simplicity purposes here. So I have some footage of my cat eating out of a bowl. So we're going to use the shuttle wheel. So let's look for a scene where we want to start this one scene edit. The cat is eating her delicious meal, which I hand prepared. Okay, how about right there when she looks to the side? We want the scene to start right there. So what we'll do is press entry. And what lights up now is cut out. So it's looking for where we want to end it. So let's keep it going. So we want this in the edit, this scene here, because it's so interesting, quite frankly, of the cat eating my home-cooked meal. We will continue this scene for a few seconds. She looks up again, looking around for any threats or anybody that wants to steal her food. And now she's walking a little bit, and the editor is memorizing all this. And how about right here when she sits perched? We'll just pause it there, all right? And we will hit entry. Now what flashes up is 2 for the next scene. We're not going to do another scene. We want to just show you how this works. The next thing we have to do is set the recorder into record pause mode. So this is for to control the EV-S7000. We'll hit pause and record. So now the EV-S7000 has lit up in record pause mode. Now when we hit program edit, if all works right, it should do its thing. So program edit. So what's happening now is that the editor is causing the TR700 to rewind and set up to record the scene that we programmed. So let's see if it's actually going to work. You see we're still in record pause mode, and it should fire up recording at the time that we designated. Right when she looked up, and that is accurate, and it's still recording. And program edit is on the display on the RM-E700 as well. It's exciting stuff, folks. And right when she sat down is where we designated it to stop, and that's where it stopped. And if we want to check it out, we can use the RM-E700 to control the functions of the deck, shuttling it back. And let's take a look. Welcome to editing in the 90s, folks. It's not like it is today with non-linear editing and computers and drag and drop. All that work was just for one scene. Can you imagine multiple scenes? But in a way, it was more fun as there was more work and you were more engaged in the process. So these decks are widely available on eBay. Prices range from $300 to $500 to $600 depending. You do have to be careful. Unfortunately, again, these decks are subject to problems, so you really need to make sure that it was fully tested, and do not be shy about asking the sellers, if you're buying it on eBay, to what extent they have actually tested it. Some will just blow you off or avoid the question, and if they do, that means they probably did not test it at all. They may have just powered it on. There is one seller on eBay who's very reputable. His name is Dr. Sony, and once in a while he has this deck for sale that he completely refurbished, replaces the caps. You will pay a premium for it. Now, who would have thought you'd find this deck on Amazon? But as of the making of this recording, there was one on Amazon for $1,200, and I happen to know the seller. He's a gentleman who does a lot of repairs for Hi8 and 8mm camcorders. But he's asking nearly double the price for Dr. Sony. So if you're going to get a professionally refurbished deck, I think I'd go with Dr. Sony first. But if you're not willing to spend that much, you can certainly get a better deal on eBay, especially if you're willing to forego the remote, the original box. Just be patient and you should be able to find one. The EV-S7000 was one of Sony's real beauties, and it really is a deck to be proud of. It's gorgeous, it plays your tapes great, there's a lot of interesting features, and I highly recommend it. Thanks for watching. If you like what you've seen, if you learned a little something, please subscribe and like, and we'll see you soon in the next video.